Well, good morning, everybody. It is a terribly rainy day outside today, but yesterday was a beautiful 55-degree day here in Pittsburgh. And as I was getting ready to go for work, I noticed something in my garage I haven't touched in quite a while. A beautiful and gorgeous Kawasaki 2021 Z400. Meantime, though, I'm going to close the garage. But this is the subject for today. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am in the process of selling this motorcycle, but I want to do a 1,100 mile review on it because as much as it pains me to say it, it might actually be the best beginner bike out there today. I'll admit, it was not my first bike. It was not my starter bike, but I did put a good couple of miles on it myself as well, and I feel like it would be an injustice if I just let this bike go and don't actually talk about it, because when I was starting out, I know I was browsing YouTube like crazy to find the best bike for me to start on. So I really hope that even if this just helps one person, it might actually sway you one way or the other, or help push you in a direction that will assist you. So get your gear on and let's get ready to go. So let me start off with what I absolutely love about this motorcycle as to why I believe it is the best starter bike. The first thing I hear out of people's mouths when they try to justify getting a motorcycle to themselves is the gas mileage, and this is no exception. As you can see right here, I'm getting an average of 50.5 miles per gallon. Now, this bike has a light on the dash there that'll let you know when you're driving it as eco-friendly as possible to save the most amount of fuel as possible. I never drive it in that range because I have this beautiful Leo exhaust system on here that sounds incredible. I absolutely love the sound this bike makes. So because of that, I just never ride it in the fuel-saving, most efficient mode. But despite that, I'm still getting over 50 miles of the gallon. That is incredible. And that is worth it all on its own. But let's move on to the next thing. This motorcycle falls into the category of a standard bike, which in common terms is referred to as a naked bike. And you can see why, because everything you could possibly want is fully exposed. There is never going to be a time where you need to change the oil or do anything to this bike where you have to remove additional fairings or give yourself a bigger headache. Even something as simple as doing your own chain maintenance is absolutely stress-free. But I will admit that it's probably stress-free to me because I went out of my way to buy spools for it. And spools are very, very cheap. I think I picked mine up for about $7-8. The part that's expensive about spools is that thing right there. This is a Pitbull spool lift. What it does is every time you need to do maintenance on the bike, you just push it up. You make sure that these little notches get right in the spools. Sorry, the light was in the way. I don't have it set up for this bike right now because I have it set up for the ZX6R over there. And then all you have to do is just push this down and it lifts the bike right up off the ground, and you can do any and all maintenance you could possibly want on this bike. Now, the price of those pit bulls are ridiculous, but they're the best brand out there, and I knew it would pay for itself over time, but that's not what this video is about. So another thing that I absolutely love about this bike is these headlights. It's not nighttime out, so I can't show it for sure. You're just gonna have to trust me. These are the best headlights and high beams I have ever experienced on a bike. So for them being stock lights, I highly recommend, because if you're a beginner, eventually you're gonna get your license, whether you go take the test or you go through a safety course, and you're going to start riding at night. And one of the biggest things about riding at night for me was that I wanted to be able to see like it was daytime. I know that's not really realistic. And those first couple of turns, when you're leaning the bike, the headlight is stationary. It actually will show your lean amount like a giant level in front of you. And it can be a little disorienting the first couple of turns. And it's nice to have a very good light ahead of you. The next thing I absolutely love about this motorcycle is the engine. Now, I'll tell you what, I started on a 250 and I did not feel okay with it on the highway at all. Not because my confidence wasn't there, but because I was redline pinning it in top gear, trying to keep up with everybody else and still getting past. That 400cc motorcycle out there will happily trot along at 110 when you fully pin it in the red on the top end of the gear. I'm not saying do that, because obviously the speed limit is a lot less than that. But if you live somewhere in like the Southwest or other areas where you have highways whose normal transportation speeds are close to 80 miles per hour, what I'm trying to say is that you will have absolutely no problem keeping up, and you will not do any additional wear and tear on your bike. It will happily do what you need it to do, where a 300 and a 250 aren't going to do that. So that bike has enough power and enough juice and range to be able to teach you lessons about motorcycling that you would not otherwise have access to mechanically, because of it being a 250 or a 300. Now, of course, you have a couple of options in the 400 range. But I have to admit that when it comes to reliability and different odds and ends, depending on what you value, the Ninja 400 and the Z400 should really be your only picks. Next best thing is the seating position, also called ergonomics sometimes. So I'm about 6'1.5", and I weigh about 245 right now. I know, I'm going to the gym. But this bike, I can sit on it with a straight back, very comfortable. My legs will sit as if I'm sitting in a dining room chair because of where the pegs are located. It is such a comfortable bike to ride, but there is one issue with the seating position. Two, if I'm gonna start actually like nitpicking. One, look at this seat. Look at how it's angled, and look at how the tank is angled. Pretty much more often than not, all of my weight is going right here. So sometimes this bike can be a bit of a nutcracker. And this next camera angle, I'm going to try my hardest to show you my next complaint. All right, I'm just sitting, we're coasting along here. Just, you know what, I'm curious what's going on in the lane next to me. Oh. All right, well, that's all right. Maybe we can just see what's going on in our... Oh. I hate the angle of these mirrors. Now, it is currently set up for a rider much shorter than myself, but the fact that you have to go through the hassle, I can't tell if you see this very well, but it says up. You can have to actually use an Allen key to adjust a lot of this stuff. And if you adjust this, you're also adjusting your brake. And if you adjust this side, you're going to be adjusting the position of your clutch. It's not a great system. I'm really not happy with how the mirrors are. I mean, some people have called it antlers from time to time. Kind of does look almost like some of those silly F-150 or F-250 truck mirrors. But even though it's supposed to adjust on this joint, it doesn't adjust very far. And if you start actually giving it the pressure that it needs, you'll notice you're putting an abnormally high amount of pressure on these joints here, and it just makes me very nervous about adjusting the mirrors. As you can see, I already have it cranked all the way back and twisted to my height angle, and it's still just not okay. Otherwise, I really don't have any complaints about this ergonomics or seating position, anything like that. Just those two big issues. Another thing I wish they'd have talked about just a little bit more is that your radiator is very exposed. It's okay, honestly, if you're just riding along the road and not really experiencing rougher terrain, but it just bothers me that they have spots here, as you can see, to mount a radiator guard to protect your fins, and they just didn't put one on there for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just not a standard thing, and that's a real shame. There's a positive though. The suspension in the rear is adjustable, which is common now, but if you adjust it correctly, this rides very smoothly. I was quite impressed after everything was fixed up and done. But let's hit you with another negative real quick. These plates right here, what they do is they allow you to use measurements when adjusting the chain. For those of you who are new to motorcycling, let me give you a quick crash course. As you ride your motorcycle, your chain is going to expand and the links are going to pull apart ever so slightly as you ride. Now, that's not usually a big deal because what you would do is you would adjust it using these bolts here. And of course you have to loosen it first. For the love of God, do not crank on those without actually loosening your rear axle first. But once you get it loosened, you move this back, everything's tightened up, life is good. You have to, it is critical to make sure that the right side and the left side match. Do not tighten that down and ride it unaligned. They have to be straight across, and these measurements are what helps you determine that. Some people use a ruler and measure from sprocket to sprocket, which is fine, you know, whatever they got to do. But I like these tick marks. But the issue with the Z400's tick marks is that this measuring plate is not on there solid. It moves, which is okay, but what I'm saying is that in here, the circle has some give around the bolt. That is not good, because if this can move and jingle and dance around, you're gonna have to constantly make sure that you have a very sturdy forward push or backwards push on this measurement tool before you crank it down to truly know that the bike is even on left and right sides. Also, for the love of God, please do not do your tightening of the chain and all that maintenance if you don't have a torque wrench to strap it down to the proper torque specs. You could hurt yourself pretty bad. But that is a beauty that I mentioned earlier, that the bike is so easy to work on. Anything you could possibly want to do, from putting sliders on the bike to the spools to doing your own oil, chain maintenance, even brakes are so easily exposed. There is nothing on this bike you couldn't learn to do. That is something that this definitely holds over the Ninja 400. The Ninja 400 is not as easy as this to work on. Just for anybody interested though, I will start this bike up, and so you can hear the exhaust a little bit. It is going to be a cold start. Always make sure that your kill switch is on and that you are in neutral. This bike will not start if it is in first gear, but it's always safe to do it just in case you purchase a bike that does not have that feature. And here we go. What a beautiful sound out of a 400. Unbelievable. In speed, this thing sounds amazing. Look at that. It's daytime and you can see the regular beams just on the wall. These headlights are incredible. The riding position is incredible, although depending on your weight and height, you might break your nuts a little bit. Engine, spot on. Ease of accessibility to work on, incredible. It is very hard to find things to say negatively outside of the mirrors of this bike. Everything else can either be fixed, tweaked, or adjusted to any way you want personally, and that is the beauty of the Z400 2021 Kawasaki. Oh yeah, and for anyone curious what that is, it's actually a throttle assist so that I can twist literally with the palm of my hands to do throttle. But don't buy one of those. I got them for like $1 or $2, and they taught me bad lessons that I'm now addicted to. Pushing this thing around the garage is absolutely effortless. So if you are a female rider, or you know that you're much shorter, struggle with different grip strengths, things like that, This bike is so light, nimble, and adjustable that you could push it around. It really does feel weightless most of the time. Even when riding it, you can bounce back and forth, lane to lane, whatever you have to do, and it will turn on a dime. It is very, very impressive. Unlike this big old thick boy over here. So honestly, in short, if you know for a fact that you want to get into motorcycling and you can drop the $4,000 to $5,000 to get you a Z400, definitely do it. Even if it's not your end-all be-all bike, like you know you're going to want to get rid of it in 1 year, it's really a good solid purchase. It doesn't have any technical issues. The reliability is solid. And it's going to teach you so much that you wouldn't be able to learn on a $250 or $300 Facebook Market dump price. But now I'll throw my opinion out there, which, let's be honest, it's not worth anything. But I'm a die-hard sport bike fan, as you can tell by my Super Sport over there, Mr. 3636. But I would go with the Ninja 400 just because I'm a die-hard sports bike boy, but I have to admit that if anybody were to ever ask me about a starter bike, this would be the only answer I would give. Sorry, I had to close the garage door, but let me bring up one more thing that I absolutely love about this bike that is standard on all Z400s that the Ninja 400 is not standard on. These gorgeous rings right here. It's on the back and it is on the front. Now, to those of you shopping around for bikes or might be looking for a used bike, always look to see if the bike has this on the front and or rear brakes. What those are the ABS system. It's your anti-braking. So if you ever slam on the brakes, instead of going into a skid or losing all control, the bike itself will use its computer to use the ABS system to save that almost accident for you. And there is a lot of controversy over whether or not you should or should not get that on your bike. Now, if you're a beginner bike, 100% get it. I don't care. Even if you are an intermediate rider, I can't recommend them enough. They've saved me a few times, but that's really all I can say about it. There's a lot of very good riders out there who find it a hindrance to their stunt riding or whatever it is they're trying to do. Like I have it on my Kawasaki ZX6R front and back, and that's kind of sacrilege to the bike community, but I love it. So last thing I'll say about it is that the one final thing I'll bring up that it has over the Ninja 400 is all the plastics on the Ninja 400. If you're getting a starter bike, let's be honest, you're going to drop it. I hate to say that, and I don't wish bad on anyone, but there is a big cliche and saying in the motorcycle community that there's two types of riders. People who've fallen and waiting to fall again, and those who haven't fallen yet. Now, if you're on a Ninja 400 and you go down, you lay it down, you whatever, all of that plastic on the outside, the fairings, cost a lot of money. The overwhelming majority of your repair bill is going to be right there in plastic on the ground. A Z400 doesn't have any of that. You'll save so much money right there. Plus, if you add spools and an actual cage on the side of it before you actually start practicing different odds and ends, you could go down a couple of times and never cause any damage to your bike. And that is a beautiful thing that the Z400 has over the Ninja 400. So me and Rimuru got to start getting ready for work, but hey, that's all I have to say about the 2021 Kawasaki Z400 ABS. I hope it helped you guys at all. I am active in the comments, so it will go directly to my phone. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, just let me know and I'll answer the best I can. Thanks.